Hello, good morning, good day, good evening, and thank you for joining us for Data Plus Women Germany and our virtual event today. Before we start, I just want to say a couple of words about who we are as Data Plus Women Germany. So we are an initiative part of Data Plus Women Global, and we are hoping to give everybody an opportunity to learn and to network in the area of data analytics. Our aim is to unite people of any gender and to promote diversity in the data community. Diversity takes many shapes and forms. So of course, we want to promote gender diversity, but also we don't care away from regarding age or nationality or language that you speak or your academical background. We just try to give everybody a stepping stone into data and to help them find their place in the data community. And as of now, we are conducting at least quarterly meetings. So this is our, I think, 5th bi-weekly meeting in a row, and I'm very happy that you all decided to join us today. I am Heidi Kalbe, and joining me today is Gina Koniecki, one of my co-leads. Corinna Müller is not with us today, but she's also one of the co-leads of Data Plus Women Germany. So diversity always means including people. So it's called Data Plus Women. It's not Data Minus Men, as Emily Kuhn said at last year's Tableau conference. And so we hope to include people and not leave anybody out. What is our agenda for today? We have Daria Voronova with us, and I'm very glad that she could join us today. And she will talk about the power of freedom that lives within. After her session, we will have a Q&A session, so please use the Q&A feature to drop in any and all questions that you might have, and Daria will address them later. Don't worry, today's session will be recorded, so if you miss anything, you can always re-watch afterwards. And if you like, do feel free to stick around for some networking at the end of the session, where I will make everybody a panelist so that we can just chat briefly with everybody else. Until the end of the hour. So with that, let me just say a couple words about our guest of today. I'm very happy to have Daria with us, and she is a data storyteller. She's gained several years of experience working as a consultant in Tableau, and she's worked in multiple industries. She recently started her own company called Tableau, and she's made it her focus to educate and inspire organizations and individuals in the area of data visualization. It's her aim to enable them to reveal insights and to tell the story behind the data through the data. And with that, I'm handing over to you, Daria.
Thank you so much, Heidi, for this great introduction. So, I think I will just share my screen and we're going to start writing. Okay. Awesome. So, guys, just once again, I'd like to start with a brief introduction of the topic that I'd like to talk about today. So the freedom that lives within. So just just a couple of words about the idea behind this presentation, behind this talk. So essentially, today I will share with you my personal journey on how I went through the immigration process, how I went through self-exploration and self-discovery process, and how I ended up being here, right now, presenting at Data Plus Women. And I think that by the end of the presentation, I just really wanted to say how important it is to find your own path, to discover who you are as a person, to understand what are your values, what you stand for in your life, and knowing that like who you are inside and what is your most authentic version of yourself, without this, like who you should look like, how you're supposed to behave, like with all this, like without all these images that we kind of like have tendency to put on ourselves, who you are as a person and following your own path. I just really wanted to say that it is incredibly important, because that is what allows you to feel and to live your life at its fullest. So, the power that lives within. So just in a nutshell about me, so I am a business challenge solver, idea generator, and inspiring Tableau visualization specialist who has a background in geology. So essentially back in Moscow, I studied geology, and so essentially I've been working across large oil and gas corporations, and I was somehow related the type of work that I've been doing was somehow related to data visualization, because back there I was calculating different 3D models of oil and gas traps. So that was kind of a little bit related to what I do right now, but just like it's absolutely different way of working with data, I guess. So in March, I guess that 4 years ago, I moved from Moscow to Toronto. So in March this year, I started a consulting agency, Tableau. I absolutely love to travel and explore the world around. So things I'm passionate about, I love biking. I do yoga almost every day. I absolutely love nature, and so to me that's kind of like absolutely incredibly inspiring thing, because literally 7 days from now I will be moving to Vancouver from Toronto. So yeah, and so thanks. For sure, I'm absolutely passionate about visualizing data, and so that is my baby Tableau, my small agency. So yeah, so my story is about the importance of discovering and following your life path. So I'd like to start with telling you a little bit about my transition part. So essentially, I immigrated from Moscow to Toronto 4 years ago, and so essentially, as I mentioned, I had a background in geology. And so essentially when I moved to Toronto, I realized that, well, there are not so many roles here in geological that somehow related to geology. And that is why I realized that essentially I had several options to go with. So it's essentially either I need to go and get another degree, or I just like, maybe I can find something that is kind of like on demand in the market and something that really sparks my interest. And so essentially I realized that back in Moscow, my education was somehow related to analyzing data, and as I mentioned, it was also related to visualizing data. So I started thinking, oh, so maybe I should just start exploring how to work with data. And so just, like I moved to Toronto in January 2017. And so I spent a couple of months just hovering on the internet and just like looking what are the free resources and how can I learn about data analytics. And so essentially, just, like surprisingly, I stumbled across Tableau, and so I just started playing around with the tool, and I realized that, oh my gosh, that is something really incredible. So essentially, how you can just, like at the first glance, you're looking, for example, at a data set or at Excel spreadsheet that has 1 million rows, and essentially you don't have any insight, anything, like you can't just digest this data. And so I realized that, oh my gosh, Tableau is a magical tool. So once you plug in this Excel file and you plot a couple of bar chart or like line charts, and it's kind of like somehow it starts revealing insights. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that really makes me, that really is something that I might be interested in exploring even further. And so essentially, yeah, and so essentially I started learning more and more about data visualization and Tableau in particular. And so very much soon I started working across large corporations in Toronto. And so over time, I realized that even though I have achieved all the things I've been dreaming about, so I immigrated to a new country, I realized that so I have achieved some things that I was kind of like very much into in terms of my career. I realized that still there was a nagging feeling within that something doesn't feel right. So the environment, the corporate environment I worked in, didn't somehow didn't feel right, in a sense that I kind of like I felt emotionally depleted every time I every time on Friday I just like, oh my gosh, there are 2 days of freedom, and then it's going to start all over again from Monday to Friday. I realized that maybe the corporations, and here I just really wanted to emphasize that I speak only for my personal experience. I realized that essentially the work I do doesn't speak to my values. So essentially, I realized that it doesn't fulfill me with energy, and I'm just not passionate about things that I do at work. And so essentially, there was a point in my life when I realized that I fell flat on my face because I had some sort of like vision on how my life supposed to look like, but essentially I realized that yes, even though I have achieved all this, you know, like all the things, um, I just don't feel that that is the life that feels right to me. So essentially, unfortunately, my dream life was actually, I realized that my dream life was not my dream. And that was quite a hard experience to me to go through, because I realized that unfortunately, in order to bring something new in my life, I have to let go of the things that don't serve me anymore. And essentially, I realized that letting go of the comfort zone was actually one of the hardest parts of my journey. Because even though, for example, working for large corporations, um, even though I realized that it didn't just bring me my, like, it didn't bring back the energy I invested in my work, and it didn't allow me to, you know, like to creatively express and you know, implement all my projects and ideas I had at the point. I realized that still working for corporations, it gives you a really great sense of stability and comfort and safety, but at the same time I realized that these things I had to let go of in order to bring, like, in order to start creating the life I want to live. I have to take this leap of faith and take courage to step outside of my comfort zone and think what is going to happen next and how can I change my life and what are the actionable steps that I need to take in order to change my life. So Yes, as I mentioned, I realized that in order to start a new life, I have to let go of things that do not longer serve me. And essentially, the next step to me was I realized that in order to understand what I would like to create, what I would like to, how I would like to see my life, I need to do some self exploration work. Or how did I rediscover myself? And so this part was all about rediscovering my path, my values, and my passion. So essentially, to me, that kind of like was, I guess, one of the most important um, times in my life when I realized that unless I discover what are my values, like even at work, like essentially it's working for someone or doing something in your life. It is not about just earning money. It's more about what energy it gives you back, right? And in order to have this reciprocate flow, when you give energy and you get it back, you have to know what are your values that you stand for. And so I realized that specifically with my work, things that really inspire me is when I do understand when I add value to someone's business, when I help someone just to become better at what they do. It doesn't honestly matter whether I'm talking about, for example, helping out someone to create dashboards in Tableau, or helping someone to ramp up with a tool, right? It's just like it is it is about how can I help the other person to become better, or an organization to become better, more successful, more productive at what they do. And so, yeah, and so essentially, it also, as I mentioned, it doesn't apply solely to your work. Rediscovering your path, your interests, your passions, it is incredibly important, just like to help you to understand that when you come when you bring together all the things, that is something that helps you to feel energetically fulfilled in your life. Because once again, when you discover the things that you're passionate about, that helps you to live your life to its fullest potential. And so, overcoming self-doubt, that was the next part after rediscovering myself. And essentially, overcoming self-doubt was, I think it was absolutely indispensable part after I realized, so okay, so I am not okay with working for someone and always following someone's instructions, as opposed to offering my ideas and trying to implement them. So I realized that maybe, as opposed to trying to find going from one company to another company, I just need to create something that I will be fully in charge of. And so that is how I realized that maybe um, I can just I can create my own company and become an individual independent consultant, maybe helping other companies to promote their business or add value to their business, or just help them in any way that I can help or be productive. And so essentially, to me, the thing is that overcoming self-doubt and fear to be an independent consultant or individual entrepreneur was intertwined with my background, because essentially I grew up in a very male dominant society, and I actually always had this image that at a certain age I have to be like a mom, or I have to achieve some things that kind of like was that I didn't see right to myself. And so to me, overcoming this self-doubt and this, like image on how I supposed to look like at a certain age was absolutely tremendously important and freeing, honestly, because I think that lots of women struggle with all this, self-imposed images on how we're supposed to look like, how we're supposed to behave like, what we're supposed to achieve. But essentially, once you realize that the power of free and independent women lives within, once you realize that this power, like nobody is allowed to give away or diminish this power, you realize that honestly you're unstoppable. You can do whatever you want with your life. You can create whatever you want. And so essentially just standing up for your dream, knowing that your path is your path. And there is no one in your life who can tell you what you do with your life. It's either other people support you on your journey, provide you with valuable advice, or I mean, that is my these are my thoughts. So essentially, after I realized that it is essentially important to stand up for your dream and take actions to bring my dream to fruition, to realization, I realized that the most challenging part is essentially how, how do I start? Where and how do I start? And so essentially with my idea to start a consulting agency, there were some challenging things. So essentially, I realized that in order to bring my dream to come true, I need to reach out to help. Because reaching out to other people is absolutely, it is so important. Because unless you ask around, unless you ask other people, it doesn't mean that you have to follow their path. No, by no means. I'm just trying to say that essentially reaching out for help is absolutely important, because that is how you feel that you're not alone on your journey. And other people, you're going to be surprised on how other people are willing to provide you with any advice or help. And so other people are here to support you. So courage to fail. I also realized that failure and rejection are the part of the journey. I think that still right now I'm in the phase when I'm trying to knock on different doors, and I feel that sometimes I'm in the place that I feel like no one is interested or something like that. But essentially then I get back up on track and I say to myself that I have to have this courage to fail, and failure is absolutely necessary part of being a successful entrepreneur, because essentially courage to fail, courage to learn from mistakes, and knowing that my mistakes it is a normal part of being a human, first of all, and I have to get comfortable with it. Once again, it is normal, and that is just as opposed to perceiving it as me being flawed in some ways. That is just like me gaining absolutely incredible and valuing experience, and knowing like failure gives me this learning experience on what should I do different next time. And for sure it gives me even more I become more persuasive to reach out to even more people and start trying different approaches. And so I really like this quote that failure should be our teacher, not our undertaker. Failure is delay, not defeat. It is a temporary detour, not a dead end. Failure is something we can avoid only by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. So I really like this quote because it just inspires me. So once again, courage to choose my path regardless of how you know how how weird maybe sometimes it might look like, or how uncomfortable it might feel like at the beginning. How courage to choose your path is so important. Courage to take action or just do the next right step. So one of like absolutely incredibly inspiring um, writers is Brené Brown. So she talks about courage to take action, courage of being vulnerable. And so one of the things that I absolutely love about her books is that she always says that you have to take action regardless of how, like regardless of what your mind says, of all your self-doubts and negative fears and belief that you have about yourself. Just do the next right step. So, and the final part is that what advice I would give to myself, or what could I have done differently, especially at the beginning. So first of all, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself regardless of how many times you fail. And that is just, like not only about me being a young entrepreneur. That is just like a very general advice I would give to myself all over again. Believe in yourself. Believe that even though, for example, if today you feel really shitty, it doesn't define your whole life or your human being. Just believe in yourself and know that even though today might be a bad day, it doesn't define you. It doesn't define you who you are. Support yourself. Supporting yourself is another absolutely incredibly valuable tool that you can always carry around with yourself. So essentially by the end of the day, we are only one who are we left with. So essentially supporting yourself and being your own best friend and cheerleader, it is so important because you know that essentially as opposed to blaming yourself and just like always trying to be perfect at what you do, you know that as long as you do your best in your life, as long as you do as long as you live in alignment with your core values, like you don't have to be perfect. You just like you have to know that as opposed to thriving for perfectionism, you just have to become better at what you do, and as opposed to like getting lost in self-deprecation, being supportive to yourself, being kind to yourself, knowing that your failures don't define you. It is absolutely, it is so important because once again, by the end of the day, we are those people who are 24/7 are with ourselves, and knowing how to support ourselves, knowing how to cheer ourselves at the time that we need it most, it is incredibly important. So be compassionate to yourself. Just like cheer yourself up with small things that make yourself feel comfortable and just like happy. Step outside of your comfort zone. So regardless, once again, what your mind says, our minds have this tendency to keep ourselves in this comfort zone. Stay at the job that you are not okay with, but still you have this some sort of like confidence and safety. Our mind always will keep us in this comfort zone, but the thing is that sometimes it just like doesn't allow us to prosper and grow. And so we all know that when we step outside of our comfort zones, it doesn't feel honestly at the times really secure, but that is where the growth, personal or professional growth, comes from. Challenge yourself, step outside of your comfort zone, and once again believe in yourself. So be brave, be bold, be authentic, be you, and honestly never underestimate the value of power that lives within you. So once again, be brave. It is just the power of being a free, and the power of that lives within yourself is going to help you to reveal the potential, like all the things that you're capable of in your life. And once again, it doesn't apply only to your work. It is just more about general advice. When we allow ourselves to be authentic, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with who we are and to share, just like we dare to show up, and we dare to allow the world around to see who we are. And essentially the thing is that the world doesn't expect us to be anything more than who we are right here, right now. The thing is that we are enough. We are enough the way we are. And there is an interesting thing. So, like, personally, I struggle with perfectionism. And I realized that as opposed to striving for perfectionism, it is always better to, to know that I am enough, and as opposed to becoming better, as opposed to trying to be perfect at something, it is better to know that I want to be better. I want to be more experienced at something. I want to learn more. So because I realized that perfectionism is just, honestly, it's a way to, it's kind of like a self-defensive mechanism that kind of like tries to prevent you from criticism, right? And so while trying to become better, while trying to become more knowledgeable at something that you do, is a better way to approach your life. And essentially, yes, so that is where all the knowledge that you're enough and the world doesn't expect you to be anything more than you are right here, right now, really helps. So dare to choose life over existence. Dare to create the life you want to live. Dare to dream. Dare to believe in yourself. Dare to act, and dare to be you. That is my message. Thank you, guys. And that is my information. Feel free to reach out, to contact. I'm always willing and happy to chat and to provide any advice. Thanks.
Thank you, Daria. That was a fantastic presentation, a very, very inspiring message. I definitely took a lot away from that. So as far as I can see, we don't have any pressing questions from, oh yeah, we do have one question. That's great. Daria, do you have any regrets after letting go of a few things, like personally or professionally, that you've spoken about? And if yes, what did you do to recharge yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that one of the hardest things were just when I decided to let go of my corporate role. I realized that there is some sort of like void in my life, and so that is why I realized that it is incredibly important to start doing something and reaching out to other people. So I think that I let go of my, well, I let go of some really valuable people in my life, because I realized that unfortunately, even though that I do realize that these people were incredibly valuable at some point, like in order to, I just can't be my new version with those people anymore, and that was quite hard decision to let go of those people, because they always used to see kind of like a previous version of myself, of me, and that is why I realized that I need to let go of these people. And the second thing, as I mentioned, I had to let go of my corporate job. And so yes, once I realized that I let go of all this people and things in my life, I realized that, oh my gosh, there is such a big void inside. And so in order to, like to cope with this void, I realized that I have to, like find out things that I'm really passionate about. And that is not just, like some immediate things that we kind of like, sometimes we have tendency to use. Is more something like, how can I find people that inspire me? How can I find my own tribe, right? So how can I find things that I do at work that really inspires me? And so that was quite it wasn't like an immediate thing. I was just like, I woke up and all of a sudden I realized that, oh gosh, these are the people that inspire me and I click with. It was quite a long story, and that was kind of like something that I built over time for sure. I hope I answered the question.
Yes.
I'm sure you did, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your current external source of inspiration in times where things are desperate or just testing?
Oh yeah, so I do yoga. I do yoga. I do meditate a lot. I do connect with nature, and once again, I'm super excited about moving to Vancouver next week, and so I just really try to find some things that it's not just, like something that might help immediately, like for example eating chocolate, but sometimes it does help as well. But I try to recharge with things that, that kind of like help me to feel grounded and more in touch with my authentic self. So, and especially it is especially important in our world, because we are all live in society of rushing into things, achieving goals, so on and so forth. And so this environment is quite stressful, and that is why I feel that it is so important to stay grounded, because that is how you stay connected with yourself, with your needs. And so, yeah.
Can I ask a pragmatic question?
Sure.
About the logistics of quitting your job and founding your own company. I mean, how did that work on a timeline? When did you quit your job? Did you phase it in? Did you do it more abruptly? Because I think that's something that when I think about myself, I would be like, okay, there must be a process that, like, I don't know, gives me some, I mean, I have to have some way to pay the rent, for example. I'm sure many people think about that when they do that transition.
Yeah, so definitely. So in my case, I started a company in March this year, and so I was hovering around for next 3 months at the company I used to work for, and so I tried to make this slow and gradual transition. But like from this pragmatic perspective, for sure, like I think that the best way is just to find maybe something that is going to help you to move along, well, at least for the next 2 or 3 months, just like to have some, maybe to have some like side projects you can work on, as maybe as a freelancer or as an individual consultant, because definitely I think that even though it is quite important to make this leap of faith, but we all humans, I'm like, we all have to pay rent, and so yeah, that's definitely that you have to think through. Yeah.
You mentioned a very like healthy and inspiring attitude towards failure, and that it is an important part of life. Do you think there's a mistake or a failure everybody should go through in order to learn? So one that is actually helpful, even if it hurts at the first time.
So I think that failure, well, I think that getting comfortable that sometimes we all fail. It's kind of like personally to me, as I mentioned, I struggle with perfectionism, and to me, I always took failure in a way that, like, I'm not like. So I would say that I always took it very much personally. It was not in a way that I didn't do some, like, okay, so I didn't do something right. For example, at this project, I was always taking it personally in a way that, like, I'm a bad person. And so essentially to me, getting comfortable with failure is just a matter of not taking it personally and knowing that, like, it just like it has nothing to do with me as a person. So if something didn't work out, that's just my learning experience, and this attitude also gives you, like, takes practice, because I personally trained myself, because every time I fail, I still have this tendency that, oh my gosh, like, that's the end of the world. But then I just, like, sit down, I do some emotional journaling, I ask myself questions, and I say to myself words of support. So, like, essentially, how can I support myself? And so what can I learn? So it's kind of like more holistic and healthy approach. What can I learn, and what should I do differently next time? But
you mentioned that that was great. You mentioned that you grew up in a society that was not very encouraging towards young women and entrepreneurs. What do you think society's message should be towards young women or young people in general?
I believe that, first of all, the message should be that know what are your values. Know what are the values that you hold on to, because essentially, I think that if your values solely are focused on earning money or paying your bills, it doesn't necessarily allow you to find something that you are passionate about. I feel like it all, like, personally to me, it all starts with understanding and, like, helping you to understand what are your core values. So if you're willing to help other people, if you want to become better at what you do, that should be, if you want to do something, like, really valuable in your life, that should be our message, and, like, that we should start in the first place. So start with understanding what brings passion and interest and spark into your life, and based on that, start thinking, what are the things in my life that might just, like, channel out this energy. It doesn't matter whether like, whether you run a company, or, like, or if you, for example, decide to become a yoga teacher. It doesn't matter. It's like, just like I feel like what you do in your life is just like the way how you can express your energy. And so I think that back in my country, I think that women, I think that, and personally, that is once again only my experience. I think that in my experience, in my case, I always had these expectations that at a certain age I have to have these things in my life. I have to have a family and so on and so forth. And so I realized that, like, but what if it is just not my path? What if these things don't like don't feel make me feel passionate, or just, you know, like, if it doesn't speak to my values at this point, why should I don't know, like, do that only just because that is self or like society imposed image on women. And so yeah, that was kind of like my weak answer, but I feel like it all starts with knowing that, like, this self-discovery process, and after that you start thinking of what are the other activities that might kind of like help you to embrace this energy. And for sure, like, believing in yourself regardless of where you live, what is your background, knowing that all your power, all your knowledge is actually within, and all you have to do is to start asking what brings energy and passion in my life, and exploring new things.
It basically sounds like Marie Kondoing your life. Everything that brings you joy.
I think so, yeah.
All right, I think that's a very inspiring message to end the official part of today's event. So with that, like, the presentation part is over, but I invite everybody to stay around for some informal networking. So in a couple seconds, I will start making everybody panelists so that we can chat and you can ask any questions to Daria that you have, or share your own experiences. And we still have 10 minutes left, so I hope everybody will stick around.